Okay, for homework tonight, 5, 7, I'm going to have you watch this and then write down the secret words to let me know that you watched it. There's going to be 5 of them. And then I'm going to have you make up specific problems on a piece of paper to show me that you did this. Good luck. Alright, what we learned in class today was when you're plugging in numbers into these functions, the first number that you plug in we call the input. When you do the math, the next number that gets spit out is called the output. So the x number, the input, the y number or the f of x number is the output. There are different ways of showing input output that a function spits out. You could show it as a table. You could show that information as points. You could show that as little input output circles here, and then you could show it on a graph input output. And today we're looking at the function test. Does this information, does this data represent a true function, which is for every input plugged into an equation there's only one output. Never will you have an equation that you plug in one number and then plug in that same number and get a different answer. That will never happen. That makes it a non-function. When you plug in 2 and plug in 10 and get 10 here, or if I plug in 2 here again and get a different number, you can't have that. The first word is Liverpool. Liverpool. Alright, here are the main ways. The table way. If you have a table, I want you to focus on the input numbers, the x numbers. If none of these repeat, automatically it's a function, not even worrying about these numbers over here. So again, focus on your left side numbers. If none of these are the same, you're good. Function. Look at this. None of these are the same. Function. Don't even need to look at my outputs. If your function though has your input numbers repeat, like this one right here, I got a 1, give me a 2, and then the same 1, give me a 5. Cannot have that. Cannot have the same number plugging in 1 into the equation, and one time the equation gives you 2 and the other one gives you 5. Cannot have that. That makes that a non-function. Here too, this has 2 4s, where one 4 gives you a 7, the other one gives you a 14. Cannot have that. But be careful though. Sometimes I'll try to trick you and put this as 14, trying to bait you into thinking this is the same input giving you 2 different outputs, but that's not true. That's just the same point written twice. So this would be a function, but it's not. Alright, the second word is beats. Beats. Alright, what I'd like you to do, the first problem, I'd like you to make a table with x and y numbers, and I'd like one of your table to be a function, which means none of your x numbers are the same, and then make another table where it's not a function, where maybe your x numbers repeat and give you 2 different y numbers. So make up a table showing a good function and a bad function. Alright, the second way of showing it is these input-output graphs, and again, you're just looking at your input numbers, these numbers on the left. Focus on those, because if none of those are the same, which means for these, none of these have more than one arrow coming out of them. I don't care where those arrows are pointing, it's how many arrows are coming out of each number. Because this one has one arrow coming out of each one, it's a function. Because this one has 2 arrows shooting out of this input number, that's an input giving you 2 different outputs. You can't have that. These, good, function, 1 arrow from each number. I don't care if they're all pointing to the same number, but 1 arrow from each number. This one, bad, because I have 5 with 2 arrows shooting at 2 different numbers. Cannot have that. Alright, what I'd like you to do for this problem is make up 2 a little oval chart here where one's a function, one's not a function. Maybe make one where all the numbers on the left point to different numbers on the right, and then one that has maybe 2 or 3 arrows coming out of a number pointing to the same one. So I want you to make a problem like this, a good one and a bad one. Alright, so you should have 4 made up already. The last one we're going to look at here, or the second to last, is points. And then I want to focus on the graph, because the graph is probably the most important. All right, so points. The third word is Barcelona. Barcelona. For points here, again, you're looking at the input numbers, the X numbers. If none of those repeat, automatically it's a function. Don't even look at these Y numbers, these output numbers. If none of these repeat, it's a function. If you do have some of those input numbers repeat, if they give you a different number for Y or for f of x, that means it's not a function. So that's how it looks in points. No X numbers repeat, function. I don't care what these numbers are. If these repeat and give you different Y numbers, not a function. All right, the fourth word is for. Okay, for graphs, I want you to see that for you to see if a graph makes a function, you're still applying it to the every input there's exactly one output, but for a graph you're running a vertical line through it. And if your vertical line that you draw through your graph touches your graph in only one spot as you go from left to right, that's showing for every input I got a different output, like maybe over 3 up 6. But then when I shift it over a little bit, I get a different input, maybe over 7 up 10 or something. Same input, different outputs. So again, looking for the vertical line test. If your vertical line goes through your graph and touches it in one place, it proves that for every input there's only one output. If you do a vertical line through it and it touches it in more than one place, that's proof that that input that you moved over to the right for X gave you two different numbers for Y. You cannot have that. You cannot have an input give you two different outputs. So if it fails the vertical line test, or a vertical line you're running through your graph touches it in more than one place, that fails the function test. All right, your last word is 0. What I'd like you to do for the last problems for tonight's homework is make 2 graphs, sketches, where one's a function and one is not. So again, hopefully you've heard those 5 words and you're making up your 3 problems. You're making up a set of tables that show a function and a non-function. So 2 tables, one good function, one bad function. You're doing a set of these input-output circles, and then I want you to make 2 graphs where one graph is a function, one graph is not a function. So just sketch a little graph on your paper, maybe like this. Quick sketch like that. And if I drew a line like this, that would be a function that would pass the vertical line test. If I sketch one like this, that would fail the vertical line test. Touch it in 2 places, fail. All right, good luck. See you tomorrow.